Welcome to the class Autodesk Network License Manager. My name is Jimmy Bergmark, owner of JTB World, and I have worked with network licenses for 14 years and is still doing that on a regular basis. The class handout is available to download from the AU website. In this class, you will learn how to manage network licenses. You will learn the steps required to install and configure Autodesk Network License Manager and use the options file to manage group license permissions. We will also cover command line tools, how to troubleshoot and diagnose problems, optimization, limit borrowing, and upgrade licenses. You will learn how to list current users and create usage reports. This class will benefit everyone new to network licenses and those that want to learn more. At the end of this class, you will be able to install and configure Autodesk Network License Manager, manage network licenses, troubleshoot network license issues, and report license usage. Let's take a look at installing and configuring Autodesk Network License Manager. Network licenses are managed by one or more network license managers running on servers within your company's network. The Network License Manager is the software that makes licenses available to users. Network licensed software installed on workstations does not require individual registration and activation. Network licenses are also called floating licenses, and that's because they are not tied to a particular workstation or user. Most network licensed Autodesk products allow you to run unlimited concurrent sessions of a product on a single workstation while using only one network license. With network licenses, you can have more installations of software than you have licenses for. With, for example, 100 network licenses of AutoCAD, there can be a maximum of 100 concurrent users running AutoCAD at any point in time, but more than 100 computers can have AutoCAD installed. Network licenses are more expensive than single licenses. Make sure to get good return of investment for them. The more users, the easier it is to save money by using network licenses. Depending on how much the users are using the Autodesk product, network licenses can make sense even for companies with just 5 to 10 users. For companies with more users, there is almost never a reason to have single licenses. When you start a network licensed Autodesk product, it requests a license from the license server. If the number of available licenses has not been exceeded, the Network License Manager assigns a license to the computer, and the number of available licenses on the license server is reduced by 1. Likewise, when the last session is closed, the license is released and checked into the License Manager. NLM is often used as short for Autodesk Network License Manager. Autodesk Network License Manager is based on Flexera Software's FlexNet Publisher License Manager product. FlexNet was formerly known as FlexLM. Let's see how to deploy license servers. What steps are required? Planning starts with determining the type of setup. Will a single or multiple servers be used? Will the type be standalone, distributed, or redundant? When that is done, you need to install the License Manager, obtain the license file, and configure the License Manager. The Network License Manager can be installed on one or multiple servers. There are 3 possible server models that support the Network License Manager. A server network can include Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux servers in any combination. Take into consideration factors like the number of users, how much they will use the software, how many part-time users and full-time users are there. A user might be a lot of meetings or on site. Another user might use the software almost all the time while other users spend a lot of time using other software. What does the existing network look like? Are there multiple offices? What is the network connection speed and reliability between the offices? How should you handle license downtime? And what does it cost? Autodesk Network License Manager software does not cost anything, but hardware and other software does, plus the extra time it takes to manage multiple servers. This has to be compared to the cost of a potential server failure where users will not have access to their software. There are advantages and disadvantages of each model, and sometimes a mix of the models is the best choice. In the single license server model, the Network License Manager is installed on a single server. Advantages of the single license server model. Because all license management takes place on a single server, you have just one point of administration and one point of failure. Of the three license server models, this configuration requires the least amount of maintenance. Disadvantages of the single license server model. If the license server fails, the Autodesk product cannot run until the server is back online. It is possible to have multiple single license servers in network. Normally, this model is used where there are just a few licenses, user at one office, and the overhead of using multiple servers cannot be justified. If you already have a single point of failure, such as one file server, the single server option may be ideal for you. In the distributed license server model, licenses are distributed across two or more servers. A unique license file is required for each server. Each server can have different features and number of licenses. When a network license product starts up, it tries each server for a license in the order you specified on the client. Advantages of the distributed license server model. Servers can be distributed across a wide area network, and they do not need to exist in the same subnet. If one server in the distributed server pool fails, the licenses on the remaining servers are still available. The strategic placement of the distributed servers provides fault tolerance of server and infrastructure failures. If you need to replace a server in the distributed server pool, you do not need to rebuild the entire pool. Server replacement is easier than in a redundant server pool where you must reactivate the entire pool. Workstation or server operating systems may be used as license managers. It's easy to set up priority user access. There is no communication between the different distributed servers. Disadvantages of the distributed license server model. If a server in the distributed server pool fails, the licenses on that server are unavailable. Wide area network technology suffers from latency and reliability issues. This model can require more time for setup and maintenance than other models. A tip is to put the distributed servers close to the users, for example, one per each physical office location or city. In the redundant license server model, 3 servers are used. Licenses can be issued as long as at least 2 license servers are functional. The Network License Manager is installed on each server, and the license file is identical on each server. Advantages of the redundant license server model. If one of the 3 servers fails, all licenses that are managed in the server pool are still available. Redundant servers offer the highest level of fault tolerance of server failure, but are intolerant of infrastructure failure. There are many disadvantages of the redundant license server model. If more than one server fails, no licenses are available. All 3 servers must reside on the same subnet and have reliable network communications. The redundant server pool does not provide network fault tolerance. Recommendation is to have all servers in the same data center. Slow, erratic or dial-up connections are not supported. If one of the 3 servers is replaced, the complete redundant server pool must be rebuilt with new license files. If your Autodesk products support license borrowing and licenses are borrowed from a redundant license server pool, you must restart the license server after you stop the network license manager. It requires server edition operating systems. Mixing server operating systems or using workstation operating systems is not supported. Using one computer as both a redundant and single server is not possible. It is complex to administer. Unless you are actively monitoring the status of the servers, you may not know if one server has failed. Autodesk Product Support strongly recommends the distributed server configuration for most applications, and I agree on that. Redundant license servers are also known as failover servers or triads. Other options available are Global Network Use License, Multiflex, and Internet licensing. Global Network Use License, aka GNUL, is a licensing option from Autodesk that allow usage across different countries or regions that are not allowed by the standard EULA. GNUL licenses are more expensive than the standard network licenses. Autodesk's Multiflex is based on GNUL and similar to Autodesk's suite licenses, except that it covers almost all Autodesk products. Multiflex licenses are more expensive than standard network licenses. Internet licenses is something that has been piloted by some companies and requires approval of Autodesk. Because the licenses are available on the open internet, license borrowing on the internet license server needs to be restricted. Further protection is done with the system environment variable LM project. A unique LM project value, acting like a password, needs to be used on the internet license server and on the clients. This makes it possible for only clients with the correct LM project value to check out the license. System requirements. The Network License Manager supports Windows, Linux and Mac OS X in Ethernet network configurations only. The Network License Manager can be installed on a low-spec server or PC as it does not require much, and it can be on another existing server like a deployment or file server. Virtual machine support is available. VPN, wireless, DSL cable is supported. Internet licensing is not supported but requires permission from Autodesk to be used. Dial-up is not supported but might work even though several tries might be needed to start the product and find the license server. Installation of Autodesk Network License Manager is done by starting the Autodesk product installer. Click on the Install Tools and Utilities panel, select Network License Manager and install. You can install the Network License Manager before or after you install the products that will use it. Network License Manager must configure the license servers before any product can obtain licenses and start running. If an earlier version of the Network License Manager is already installed on the computer, you should upgrade by stopping the license server in LMTOOLS, uninstall and then install the new Autodesk Network License Manager into the folder where the old version was located. How to request a license file. The preferred method of registering and obtaining your network licenses is to use the Autodesk registration website. Autodesk uses the server hostname, host ID, and product serial number to generate the license file. This information is also needed. Name and version of each Autodesk product as well as quantity of licenses for each product per version per license server. It's also needed to provide Autodesk with the server setup, single, redundant, or distributed. The host ID, also known as MAC address or Ethernet address, can be obtained in two ways, using ipconfig all or LMTOOLS. If your server has more than one network adapter, select the one that corresponds to a physical network adapter. To configure a licensed server, use the LMTOOLS utility. Make sure to be logged in with administrator rights. In Windows, click Start, All Programs, Autodesk, Network License Manager, LMTOOLS utility, or run lmtools.exe from the installation folder. In the LMTOOLS utility, on the Service License File tab, make sure the Configure using Services option is active. Autodesk products do not support the configuration using license file method. Click the Config Services tab. In the service name list, rename FlexLM Service 1 to, for example, Autodesk NLM. This name will also appear as a Windows service and can be monitored accordingly with, for example, Microsoft System Center Operations Manager. In the path to lmgrd.exe field, browse to locate the file. In the path to the license file box, locate the path. In the path to the debug log file box, enter a path to create a debug log or click Browse to locate an existing log file. It is recommended that you save to the installation folder or a subfolder of it. The log file must have a .log file extension. To run lmgrd.exe as a service, select Use Services. To start lmgrd.exe automatically when the system starts, select Start Server at Power Up. Click Save Service to save the new configuration as a service. Click the Start Stop Reread tab and click Start Server to start the license service. Click the Server Status tab and click on Perform Status Enquiry to ensure that it's working. Close LMTOOLS and test that it works by running an Autodesk product and verify that it can pull a license. Now we're going to learn how to manage network licenses. First, I will describe how the different pieces work together. The following three things manage the distribution and availability of licenses: Licenses Manager daemon, Autodesk Vendor daemon, and the license file. LMGRD handles the original contact with the application and then passes the connection to the vendor daemon. LMGRD starts, restarts and stops the vendor daemons as needed, and reads the license file and writes to the FlexNet debug log. ADSKFlex.exe tracks the Autodesk licenses that are checked out and the computers that are using them. Then there are these components. License Manager Tools or LMTOOLS is the UI utility, and LMUTIL.exe is the command line utility. FlexNet debug log file contains events that LMGRD and ADSKFlex creates and is useful to debug and confirm that the network license manager is working as expected. The options file is an optional file that can be used to configure how licenses are used. And finally, the report log is an optional file holding license usage that can be reported on. You can use LMTOOLS or LMUTIL.exe to perform the following server management tasks: start, stop and restart the server, configure, update and reread the license file, diagnose systems or license problems, view server status and including active license status. The License Manager Network Traffic or Heartbeat is a two-way communication between client and license server and happens about 1 time per minute per session, and the packets are small. If the heartbeat signal is lost, the server tries to reconnect. If the server cannot reconnect, the user receives a license error. If the product stops working because it has lost the connection to the server, you must shut down the product and then restart it. Most Autodesk products gives you the opportunity to save open documents before shutting down. Here is how to update FlexNet from a previous version. Normally, with the new release of Autodesk products, it's required to upgrade FlexNet. To determine the installed version of FlexNet, you need to verify the version of the following files: LMGRD, LMTOOLS, LMUTIL, and ADSK-flex.exe. Normally, the version can be seen by checking the properties of the file. Otherwise, LMTOOLS can be used. Click on Utilities tab and browse for the exe file and click on Find Version. The steps to update are as following. Backup your license file, options and other files that are vital. Run LMTOOLS and stop the server. Take note of the current installation folder and then uninstall the Network License Manager. Install the Network License Manager to the same location as the previous version. Run LMTOOLS, click Start Server, and finally make sure everything is working by clicking on Perform Status Enquiry, and also test run the network licensed product. This procedure can be performed without affecting users who are running the software, provided the entire procedure is completed within a reasonable amount of time. However, during this procedure, new users will be unable to acquire licenses. If you have multiple servers, the easiest thing is to install the new version on one, and then for the other servers, you can just stop the service, replace the exe files, and start the service. Let's now look how the options file is set up and used. With an options file, you set configuration options that determine how a license server manages licenses. The options file is optional, but as you will see, there are good reasons to use it. By managing the contents of an options file, you can specify the same behavior on all license servers or implement particular differences among the servers. Use the options file to set parameters for license timeout, license borrowing, report log, or advanced license parameters such as reserving a license, restricting license usage, or defining groups of users or hosts. Create an options file using a text editor like Notepad, but don't use WordPad or Word. Enter the parameters you want and then save the document as a file named adskflex.opt to the same folder as the license file. For options file changes to take effect on the license server, run LMTOOLS and click Reread License File. In some cases, the first time the options file is used, a stop and start is needed. Verify that the license manager is using the options file by checking the debug log file. Look for a row including the text ADSK-flex using options file. To add comments in the options file, start a row with number or hash sign. Lines in the options file are limited to 2048 characters. The backslash is a continuation character in options file lines. License timeout is set in the options file to determine how long a product session can be idle before the license is reclaimed by the license server. If a user's license is lost because of the idle timeout, the product attempts to claim a new license once the user uses the product again. If no license is available, the user can save work before the product shuts down. You can use the timeout parameter to set individual license timeouts for each Autodesk product, or use the timeout all parameter to set one license timeout for all Autodesk products. The lowest acceptable value for timeout of Autodesk products is 900 seconds. Any of the following activity in the active application prevents the client workstation from being idle: any keystroke, any mouse click, any command, Lisp expression, menu macro, or script in progress, automatic save, any modal dialog box opened. If a product crashes, a wire is disconnected, the session might end up in limbo and might not be returned until the license server is restarted. This in itself is a reason to always make use of timeout. Make sure to inform your users about how license timeout works and that they don't leave a command running or a modal dialog box opened while leaving the application. The group functionality in the options file defines a group of users for use in several different option lines. By default, computer name or host names and usernames are case sensitive unless the group case insensitive is set to on. Because the case can change from time to time on machines, it is recommended to always use case insensitivity. License borrowing allows users to borrow a product license from the network license server to use the Autodesk product for a specified time, even if the computer is not connected to the network. The license is automatically returned to the license server at the end of the day on the return date set when the license was borrowed. The user can return a license early, but that must be done when connected to the network license server, and be done from the same user that initially borrowed the license. A borrowed license cannot be returned earlier from the license server, and the maximum borrowing period is 6 months, but can be limited by editing the option file. Most network licensed Autodesk products allow you to use the software while temporarily disconnected from the company's network, such as when you are on business trip or working at a remote location. Unless 6 months are needed, set as low limit as possible to avoid licenses from being orphaned, something that can happen if a laptop is stolen during a trip. Because network licenses are more expensive than single licenses, make sure users don't borrow licenses just to be sure they have a license all the time. Make sure users return a borrowed license as soon as they don't need it anymore. There are 4 ways that borrowing can be determined using the options file. Limit borrowing. The example blocks license borrowing for 5 Autodesk licenses. Limit borrow period. The example limits license borrowing of Autodesk licenses to 3 days. Excluding license borrowing. The example blocks borrowing of Autodesk licenses for the specified user. Including license borrowing. The example allows borrowing of Autodesk licenses for only the specified user. With the options file, you can reserve a specific count of licenses. The following examples reserve either 1 or 5 AutoCAD 2012 licenses for a variety of types like user, host, user group, host group, IP, IP range, and project. You can restrict maximum license usage of specific licenses. The following examples set the limit of either 1 or 5 AutoCAD 2012 licenses for a variety of types. With the options file, you can block access to specific licenses. Anyone not explicitly excluded will continue to have access to these licenses. The following examples block access to AutoCAD 2012 licenses for a variety of types. With the options file, you can specify only users included to have access to specified licenses. The following examples provides access to AutoCAD 2012 licenses for the specified type only. Bringing all this together, an options file can look like this. We can, for example, see that there is a group of 3 drafters that are the only ones to be allowed borrowing AutoCAD 2012. The network license file configures network license servers to manage licenses. The license file you receive from Autodesk contains licensing information required for network installation. It also contains an encrypted digital signature that is created when Autodesk generates the file. The license file might be corrupted if edited in a non-ASCII editor like WordPad or Word, so make sure to use Notepad. The machine name and daemon ports in the license file can be changed. Autodesk offers a package license file option, which allows the use of a suite of products that are packaged and sold together. Running an instance of any one of the features uses one license of the package. Prior version support for subscription customers allow usage of current version plus the 3 prior releases. In the license file, there is a package part describing what can be used. Sometimes you need to combine network license files. Licenses for different releases of the same product or licenses for different Autodesk products can be combined in one license file. If you have 10 licenses of AutoCAD 2012 and you need 5 more licenses, you need to request a new license file from Autodesk for the 15 licenses and replace the license file or the increments in the existing license file. If you purchase more network licenses, make sure you get the increments correct, or you might end up with less licenses available than expected. If the issue date is the same, multiple increments of the same feature can be used, otherwise only the one with the most recent date will be used. Here is an example of a completed package license file for combined Autodesk product versions. It is combined like this. Take a copy of the most recent license file. Copy everything except the first 3 rows starting with server, use server, and vendor, from the other license file and insert between row 3 and 4 or at the bottom of the new license file. Always combine all increments included in all license files, including plist increments. FlexNet will automatically determine which plist is the most current and use that increment accordingly. If you fail to include plist increments, certain Autodesk products may not be able to acquire a network license. Once the license files are combined, click Reread License File on the LMTOOLS Start-Stop Reread tab to make the changes effective. Sometimes it may be necessary to stop and restart the License Manager before the new license file will be read. Let's take a look at how to troubleshoot network license issues. The vendor daemon service can be found in Windows Services console having the same name as specified when creating it in LMTOOLS. The processes lmgrd.exe and adsk flex.exe should be seen in Windows Task Manager. Using Microsoft's Process Explorer, the service lmgrd.exe, here adsk flex service, can be seen, as well as its child process lmgrd and its child process adsk-flex.exe. The FlexNet debug log file is useful to find out what happens in the Network License Manager and to identify and diagnose problems. We can find the FlexNet version, the license file used, what FlexNet daemon port and vendor daemon port it is, options file, license features, options records, when a license is checked out or checked in, when we are reading options file, if a borrowed license is returned earlier, or a denied license request is showing up. By performing a status inquiry with LMTOOLS or LMUTIL LMStat, the current usage can be seen. We can see features available. Per feature, we can see the number of licenses issued and in use. On a detailed level, we can see what user and host is using a feature and when the license was checked out, borrowed, or reserved. We can also see if there are any license errors. The verbosity can be increased of FlexNet errors on the server and client, and this can help to further understand problems that are occurring. If you find that licenses are not being returned to the Network License Manager pool for a long period of time after the connection with the client workstation is lost, a workaround can be to make use of Timeout or TIMEOUTALL in the options file. When a client machine crashes, the license is still checked out by the license server until the timeout period. You can also use the LM-remove utility to free licenses. Sometimes a valid license can't be obtained by the Network License Manager. This situation can occur when you access the License Manager through a VPN, dial-up or a slow DSL or ISDN link, and when accessing licenses over long distances. A solution can be to set the FlexLM timeout environment variable on the client to extend the license request timeout. If the authenticating network interface card survives a server failure, the card can be moved to the replacement hardware and the license file reused. If the new server inherits the failed unit's name, nothing else is required. Otherwise, the hostname in the license file must be edited. If the network interface card fails or is on the server system board, a new license file will be required. Now we're going to look at some options to report on license usage. Current usage can be seen in LMTOOLS using Perform Status Inquiry. There is a limitation on how much is showed here. To see everything, you may need to use LMUTIL instead. LMUTIL is a command line tool that, together with the LMStat argument, can show the current usage. LMUTIL can be scripted using a Windows batch file, and output can be filtered using flags and/or external filters such as grep. SAMreport-Lite is a report generator that can provide basic historical usage reports using the FlexNet report log. SAMreport-Lite is available for free and can be downloaded from Autodesk's website. It has its limitations like no usage over time or high watermark reporting, as well as no filtering and grouping functionality. JTB FlexReport LT is a freeware from JTB World for HTLM reports showing current FlexNet usage. It supports multiple servers, aggregation, and descriptions for features. JTB FlexReport is a report tool from JTB World that gives you graphic reports or detailed list reports on your usage of FlexNet, as well as other network license systems. The reports can help you to manage and forecast future license usage trends at your company. JTB FlexReport will help you to see the license usage over the time and help to justify new purchases. This will help you to decide when and how many licenses you will need to purchase next time, instead of guessing and purchasing more licenses than you really need. My best tip is to always use the license timeout functionality. Set timeout all in the options file to the minimum 15 minutes. This chart shows a real-world example how timeout freed up several licenses. To help you further manage your network licenses, there are many resources available. You find these in the handout together with even more details that the time for this class did not allow me to cover. By now you should be able to install and configure Autodesk Network License Manager, manage the licenses, troubleshoot issues, and report on license usage. Feel free to contact me with any licensing questions. Thanks for your time.